Blackpool back in the 80s when I was only a young lad in my early 20s, and I remember talking to this guy, can't remember his name, Les, I think it might have been, I don't know, but he was very well read, Les, and he was in the war. He was in the Second World War. He was only a young guy, but he was in the war. He was in Italy, in Messina, with all that fighting with Messina and everything, you know, and the Allies sort of swept upwards through Sicily and the tour of Italy and so forth. Monte Cassino and all that. And he remembers when they were in Malta, Italian planes used to do bombing runs on the British fleet that was anchored in Malta. And what they used to do is, they were that good, the Italian pilots, they could actually drop a fucking bomb down the smokestack of a destroyer. That's how good they were. He said they were shit at everything else. Fucking cowards. And this, that and the other. He said, but by God, their pilots were fucking amazing. He said they could literally, I mean, that takes some doing, that, doesn't it? Flying at that speed and dropping a pinpoint precision, that, isn't it? Dropping it right down a fucking, of course, the idea is to get it down the smokestack, into the boiler room and engine room and blow the ship to pieces from within. That's that fucking shit finished with, isn't it? Whereas if you hit the hull or so forth, it's superficial damage. It's all armour plated and so forth. Very clever, very clever. Give the Italians credit for something. Yeah, and that's one of them. So Eurovision, Russia's been banned. Back off on a fucking tangent there, weren't we, guys? That's it. That's the... I won't even give it a second fucking glance. I used to, not anymore. We're out of it soon anyway, aren't we? I don't know whether we'll still fucking be bothering with it. I really don't. What are we doing now with let's have a look at the time, because I do witter on a bit sometimes and I have to watch the time. half an hour left, guys. Easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Right, this is an unusual story. This is Tewkesbury. Tewkesbury, is it Gloucestershire? I think it is Tewkesbury. I might be mistaken. I'm sure it's down that southwest somewhere. And this is, yes, it's in Gloucestershire. Of course it is. Small town in Gloucestershire. They've got this, Tewkesbury Town Council is considering setting up a special panel with the sole purpose of deciding the fate of the contentious cat Missy. They've got this cat there in the council offices who's been visiting that office since last summer. And many workers enjoy Mrs. company, as you do. Who doesn't love a cat? You know, I've got a cat. I think they're amazing creatures. But Town Mayor Karen Brennan has had enough. Oh, there you go. The issue will be discussed at a crunch meeting next week. There'll be tea and biscuits and cat treats. If the cat will be present, and like a little dog. With its little paws on the top of the railings, listening to all the proceedings. Many workers enjoy Mrs. company, but obviously the mayor has decided that because of people suffering from allergies, one councillor who would not be named, there you go, surprise, surprise, described the situation as nuts. Which sums it up neatly. Oh, well, no, I'm for her because she's right. But isn't it a shame that she's not, she can't be named for fear of repercussions? It is fucking nuts. Miss Brennan said an office somewhere from business, an office is somewhere for business to be transacted and we don't need a cat around. These are issues of health and safety, insurance, security. Well, it fucking would be, wouldn't it? Everything's all fucking by the book now, isn't it? You know, what happened in the past when you'd walk into a pub and there'd be a cat there, wouldn't there, near the bar, or a dog? You know, the world's gone fucking mad now with rules and regulations and stipulations. You know, proof of that is when you go for a job. You can go for a job emptying a fucking rubbish bin and you need qualifications for a doorman. Well, have you got your ICS or whatever, SIS certificate? So, you know, and that, but how much is that? £500. You can't have that, you can't get the job. And that's what it is, it's all Labour did this. Labour, fucking Labour, the bureaucratic nightmare that socialism is. That's what they do, don't they? Red tape. Everything has to have this fucking I's dotted, T's crossed. Everything's got to be done by the fucking book. And that's why every time that fucking shower and all everything goes to fuck. And Tony Blair, when he was in, brought all these regulations in. Town clerk Helen Railton Price, said Missy had been good for morale, but Miss Brennan said she could not understand how the smell of cat food and the job of cleaning her bowl leads to good morale. Get a fucking life, darling. Get a fucking life. Really, I think one of the most relaxing things there is when you're laying in the chair or a bed or whatever, and if you have a cat and he or she comes up to you, nuzzles its head against you and purrs. It's the most amazing, it's so tranquil. It really does. You can have a million things on your mind, but that little furry head sort of nuzzling against you, and that amazing purring sound really does. It's better than any fucking Valium. It is. It's the most amazing thing. And they're all, leave the cat alone. Leave the cat alone. I hope the vote goes for the cat. I really do. What a testament and an example of how fucking horrible today is. How society is today. It's gone horrible, hasn't it? It really has. Right. Let's just have a quick skirt through the main news. Right, this thing about grammar schools. Grammar schools are the best thing since sliced bread. I should have gone to grammar school. Wished I had. Grammar schools need to be... They're trying to make them... Theresa May and Amber Rudd. Is it Amber Rudd? Yeah, no, it's Home Secretary. No, it's somebody else. Education Minister. Who's the Education Minister now? It's not... I know it's not fucking Michael Gove. And it's not Nicky Morgan. What a useless piece of shit that was. That Nicky Morgan. Fucking hell. And they sort of want to introduce more grammar schools. Well, but of course the Labour are bleating that it's unequal. It's not a level playing field for kids that aren't as clever. Tough fucking shit. It's tough. That's the way it is. That's the way life is. If you're good enough, you go to a grammar school. If you're clever enough, don't hold them kids. Why should clever kids be dragged back to the same level as thick fucking kids? You know, where is that going to end up? You know, where's society going to end up there? We're all going to end up a fucking nation of morons. You know, and Labour again did that, didn't they? There are 13 years of education policies, child-centred learning, nearly fucked this country up completely. You were getting kids leaving school and they couldn't even form a fucking sentence, half of them. They didn't even know how to compile a CV. They used to send application letters for a job in text speak. And that's Labour. You know, everybody, a prize for all. Everybody's the same. No, it isn't though, is it? Some bright kids, there's some very clever kids. And they should never be held back. You push them forward, and grammar schools bring out the best of everything. It's that sort of poor man's version of. I've always thought that grammar schools are sort of poor man's version of, or the working man's version, I should say, for being a bit more politically correct, if I must. Of private schools, isn't it? From the tough schools, the posh schools. But grammar schools are very, very. You know, you go to a grammar school and you inevitably end up at university anyway. So, yeah, and they're excellent. We had one here, Ashton, where I live, Ashton-under-Lyne. One of the best schools in the country, Ashton-under-Lyne Grammar School, and Audenshaw, which I think is still going. They are fabulous schools, and it's typical of the Guardian and the Mirror dumbing down these, you know, and saying that these schools shouldn't be around. It's just fucking typical. That's what they do, these bastards. They're horrible, aren't they? They really are. They really want to see this country fucked up, don't they? The left. I don't know what they seem to think, that they're doing a good job, that everything's equal and everything, but they've got these barking ideas. They really have. And all of them seem to be sort of against progression and bettering yourself. What's that all about? We had to get round to this story, didn't we? This isn't the main story. This is the United Airlines fiasco. Dr. David Dow, D-A-O, and he's Vietnamese, this guy. He was around, apparently, when the Vietnam War was on and fled fucking Saigon. I bet that wasn't on a United Airlines flight. We'll have some fun with this. Why you not got me off seat? I don't want to go. You're going, buddy. You got to go. No, I want to go. I want to go. Started doing the fucking Bruce Lee thing. Taser. No, they didn't do that, did they? Though they didn't. The footage I saw, the story goes where he was the overbook. There was an overbooking. There was 4 members of United Airlines that needed to be on, and they would have exceeded their allowed amount, if you like, if they'd have left it as it was. So they had to bump, as they say in the business. Some people, I think some people went, but there was one guy that wouldn't go, and this was this doctor. And I say doctor loosely because how the fucking God only knows how in the world is this man practicing? Even practicing, it's frightening. And he wouldn't go. Now, he would have been asked to politely leave, and he would have been given the alternatives, because I know people in this business who have said that's what would have happened. And, of course, he must have said, no, I'm not going. And folded his arms, stamped his feet, I don't know. Because you don't see that, do you? No, you never see that bit, do you? All these twats with their phones out and everything, but they won't show you what at the beginning of it, will they? Where he was actually being an obstinate fucker, didn't want to go, indignantly fucking saying no, and sits down, arms folded, and not leaving. Well, you have to leave. No, I'm not going. I not go. You fuck off. You know? But anyway, they dragged him off. And it's the most sedate fucking way I've ever seen. But he mysteriously ended up with blood all over him. And fucking banged his head, or he banged his head on the fucking headrest. He had it all fucking planned out, this. He had it all planned out. Compensation would have been fucking burning into his brain here, right from the very beginning. And anyway, he was dragged away, cutting his head. Banged his head, cutting it open, leading many to criticise the airline staff for removing this innocent man. Maybe they could have handled it, law enforcement could have handled it, but if a guy doesn't want to leave, how do you get him off? If he's refusing to leave, then you have to forcibly remove him. So the only way he was going to be moved was to carry him out. The fact that he banged his head, he must have been putting up a fight, and it shows you him writhing around. So, I'm sorry, he did that on him fucking self. Without doubt, what happened on that plane was an atrocious act. No, I disagree, I don't think it was. But now details of the doctor's dark past have emerged, yes. And he has got a past, this guy. He's got more past than the fucking History Channel, this lunatic. And again, I have to ask, how in the world is he practising medicine? According to a series of medical journals, Dr. David Dow has previously been charged with offering pharmaceutical drugs for sex, as well as stalking. At one point, the doctor was even facing prison for 20 years. Yeah, and he's a doctor. He's 69 and he's still practising fucking medicine. As reported by the Louisville Courier-Journal, 69-year-old Dow once performed a genital exam on a patient who came to David for chest pains and a collapsed lung. How's your lung? How's you doing? Have you got chest pains? Oh, let me feel your balls. So let's have a fondle of your balls and see if we'll make it right. Amazing. He's a fucking nutter. You only have to look at him and you can see he's a fucking grade A head the ball. He later made that man his officer manager. Amazing. And when he eventually quit, Dow stalked him and offered him prescription pills in return for sex. Allegedly, yeah. Well, there is that about it, isn't there? But a lot of people say that's what he did. And he had this reputation for kicking off, even with his patients, screaming and shouting and throwing things around, which brings you back to what happened on that plane, doesn't it? Dow studied to become a doctor in his homeland, Vietnam, before moving to Elizabethtown in Kentucky, where he worked as a pulmonologist before being arrested in 2003. He was convicted of multiple felony counts of obtaining drugs by fraud and deceit in November 2004 and was placed on 5 years of supervised probation in 2005. The Kentucky Board of Medical Licensure permitted Dow to resume practicing medicine in 2015 under certain conditions. He's fucking dodgy. He shouldn't be practicing medicine. I think that was a setup. I really do. I think he knew that if he kicked up, and the fact that he's unstable himself, isn't he? So when confronted by these law enforcement officers, whether it was a flashback back to the days of the Viet Cong fucking hassling him, I don't know. But he must have gone berserk. He went berserk. The authorities, if you resist any kind of law enforcement, then they will respond accordingly. And the usual way is to subdue you. And they do that by fucking grabbing you and dragging you off. And that's what happened.